وتاني متمني يكتب المكتوب ونكون حداك. يا قلبي شوف هواك وين رماني، فوق بحر صافي بمواج وداني معاه. تبع رياح الحب وعندك حطني ودعني وصاني وقلي حبيبك ما تنساه. زينة ما درتي فينا، انا وقلبي حوسنا عليك ما لقينا. يا زينة ما درتي فينا، انا وقلبي حوسنا عليك ما لقينا. قالوا لي خرجتي في الظلام وعليا سولتي، في غياب القمر بعيونك ضويتي. قالوا لي عليك نجمة يا نجمة ما بنتي، وين كنتي هذا شحال قولي لي علاش هربتي. قالوا لي خرجتي في الظلام وعليا سولتي، في غياب القمر بعيونك ضويتي. قالوا لي عليك نجمة يا نجمة ما بنتي، وين كنتي هذا شحال قولي لي علاش هربتي. سينا ما درتي فينا، انا وقلبي حوسنا عليك ما لقينا. يا سينا ما درتي فينا، انا وقلبي حوسنا عليك ما لقينا. يا ربي مولاي حلف ما نزيد نسال علي هجرني، والعين اللي بكات وحالة سامحني.
Okay. Y'all know Monique Miles. We start on time. And we always start at 8 a.m. You know, that's just all right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you hear me in the food line, welcome. Keep getting your food. And can you get me a breakfast burrito? I'm Steve Patrick with the Forum for Community Solutions. Welcome, y'all. How many of you are in this room for the first time? That is awesome. That's like seriously 47% of the room. That's awesome. Well, welcome to y'all. How many of you have been to this before? How many of you have been to the OYF just, in the past? Okay. Well, if you're here, you're meant to be here. How many of you have been to at least 5 Opportunity Youth Forum gatherings? Raise a fist if you've been to at least 5. Okay, so everybody who's never been here before, talk to these people. That's where you find out where the good food is, the restaurants, the best hikes. How many of you noticed the sunlight on Highlands Bowl, that skier across the way on your way here? That's important. The connection with nature here is really powerful. And what I always say about Aspen, and it is true, and the folks who have been here before will back me up, is that magic happens in Aspen. It does. It happens in nature, and as we rest and resist and rest, we got to spend more time in nature. And there's nothing better than spending time in nature together. And Aspen, how many of you realized just how expensive food? Anybody get a $38 burger at the J Bar yet? What? So, as I've said before, it is a little bit of an act of resistance just to come to Aspen. I've been saying this for years. We cannot let the billionaire tribe keep the rest of us from enjoying the magic of places like this. And at a time when some folks are creating or doubling down on false hierarchies, we need to step right into the middle and own all spaces in America as Americans and as visitors who are welcome. So Thank you for helping us resist. I also we get to do our land acknowledgement, and I'll just do it in a typical Steve informal way, which is to say, this is the land of the Ute people, the unceded land of the Ute people. So we appreciate the sharing of the beauty and the magic that happens in Aspen, and the original people whose land we stand on. We try to a lot of friends of mine, Native, Indigenous, tribal friends have said, land acknowledgements, so what? And so I think that's the more important question is like, so what? So one is, so often in our work, when we're looking for data and research, Native, Indigenous, tribal stuff comes up as statistically insignificant. And for us, part of the work of this coalition, of this community, is to make sure that there is real statistical significance with our Native, Indigenous, and tribal brothers and sisters in the work and in this room. So as part of this acknowledgement of those whose land we stand on, could I just ask folks who self-identify as Native, Indigenous, or tribal to raise a hand, a fist, a finger, preferably not, though. Thank you. You are statistically significant in this room, and so we appreciate y'all. Geneva Wiki, we appreciate it. Yeah, no. All right, we acknowledge the Ute people and appreciate this space. So last, in terms of welcomes, I was just thinking about what a dark time this is, and how many of you have actually heard me talk about the Aspens? Let me just see how, yeah, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it again. I feel like the Aspens are a metaphor for how we get through rough times. So the aspen trees, most of them have lost their leaves. The Aspen Institute has been able to glue some on for you all in the near vicinity, but these aspen stands, first of all, they're stands. What a good word stand is. Got to stand for something. Secondly, right, all their roots are connected. They share roots. That's the power of community. That's the power of coalition. That's the power of a network. And you are part of that network. So the largest living organism in the world is actually an aspen stand in Utah. Don't tell the Coloradans, but it's in Utah. It's an amazing thing. Just like the snowbird Alta snowmass skierias, which are also amazing, maybe even slightly larger and better than those in Aspen. Don't tell the Coloradans. I digress. So aspens grow connected. They even grow in a way in that shared root system where when one is weaker, the others can support in that stand. They're also the first thing that come up after a fire. So right now, picture a fire. It's a bright orange fire. It could last as long as 4 years. It's coming down and devastating community. But the coalition will rise, right? The resilience is in that stand. The resilience is in the connectivity. And that's what we're up against in this moment. So we need to be in coalition like an aspen stand. Aspens grow in a way that creates space for others, right? They grow, you look at them, they grow in this kind of beautiful way where there's no limbs on the ground, towards the ground, right? Just up at the top in those beautiful orange leaves. And that's a way in which the rest of the ecosystem gets to thrive. They're like a model for leadership, for creating space for others. So when an aspen stand comes up after a fire, it holds the mountain together, prevents the erosion of the soils, grows up in a way where the sunlight and the rain can get through to the rest of the vegetation on the ground, creates a healthy ecosystem. So we're gonna stand together. We're gonna grow we need to be the Utah aspen stand. So we're gonna figure out where are the other aspens in this coalition. So some of you were with us in LA, we made sure like the Brennan campaign was with us. They've got a network, a stand of Aspens to connect with. And in solidarity, all the research says the way you fight autocracy is broad-based coalition. We are part of a broader-based coalition, and I'm just gonna say that. I'm not being political, I'm just talking about Aspens. So I wanted you to carry that with you. You know, I'd be honored if someday one of you came back after experiencing the magic of Aspen and said, you know, Steve, I told the Aspen stand story to some people because, my colleagues are like, dude, don't do the Aspen story again. So that broad-based coalition is how we get through. It's also about leaning into each other. So I just want to honor and appreciate that folks made the trip to get all the way here to be with us in Aspen to join the conversation. If you're new, welcome, like really welcome. We are deeply enthused about that opportunity. Who's here from the OGs? Like, where's Ruth Barajas? She in the house? Ruth's from San Francisco. She's been to a dozen of these. You'll find her later at the J Bar. Ruth's a beautiful woman. I told her I was going to tease her, so Ruth's a beautiful human being, and somebody should buy her a drink at the J Bar. You send me the bill. But I'm sure, and those of you, how many of you know Ruth? Who's in the room who knows Ruth Barajas? All right, so you guys can get that done. Just send me the bill. What about Kathy? Is Kathy here from Boston? Right on. Did you bring your dancing shoes? All right, see you tonight. Wear that Patriots jersey, will you? All right, I'll stop. How about you? What about you, Leroy? Who are you looking forward to seeing while you're here? Who are you going to connect with? Anybody? You going to hang out with the New Mexico crew? Anybody who loves community. All right. Okay. The point is we're here to connect, learn, build coalition, take side trips, skip sessions, walk to the river, experience the magic of Aspen. It's really magical. And if you do connect and something beautiful comes out of it, let me know so I'm keeping a running list of magic that happens in Aspen. I use it for my annual review with my boss. So I want to hear about those magical things. And again, I just want to welcome you. And while the Aspen metaphor sometimes gets old, the brilliance of Metaphor Houston never does. So I'm going to say, Bean, you ready? All right. So back by popular demand, brought to you by the good people at Good Chaos. Thank you all if you're in the room. Our coalition was like, oh, wait a minute. What about the poets from Houston? They must be there. So I don't know, third time in a row, fourth time in a row, but we are deeply proud to be in partnership with Outspoken Bean and the crew from Houston, Metaphor Houston, Poetry Slam champions. Welcome, you guys.
Good morning. How are y'all? That mic was a lot louder than what I anticipated. I come in, I bring to you as, I am not here to, nor do I want to ask for more than a raise, index and middle finger as, the olive branch is above and it lingers as, the sand clock vanishes, and the sand paper finishes with hours, by the hour, at any second, there's an expectance to be given our, or we will take our peace. Give us our peace. We will fight for our peace. We will move through the heart of the dark for our peace, and peace is deserved and needed. But what's interesting about peace, sometimes to continue a new metaphor, sometimes you are in this ocean, and peace, it seems like it's a mirage and it's an island, but you have to make that voyage. So I set my sails. There are parts of me where I feel lost at sea as the wind wails. I carry these messages in this flesh bottle without comfort or coddle. Ahoy, matey, shiver me timbers. I find myself hooked off of handshakes, or I have to plague or move towards with the arc in my chest that has marked an X and rated my chest, drifting, remembering that self is an island. That self is an island. That yourself is an island. The only odd I see is I don't feel like I'm the captain now. Navigating these peerless seas like Blackbeard just to be screwed like Phillips. I thought I told you that my self-island is worth its piece, and each piece that's reached will be a map, and it will all eventually and has to come together. So before the drift away, before the Kraken's release cracking my floorboards, before I was forced to walk the plank to plummet deep into emotions, oceans, I had found my longitude and latitude, and it brought me to my still. And still, I will fight for my peace. I will move for my peace. I will raise wars and rage war for my peace. Thank you. I want to introduce Metaphor Houston two-time fellow, Christina Ruiz.
Hi, I'm Christina Perez Ruiz. I'm from Puerto Rico, and I wrote this poem about the exploitation of my island, both by Spain and the US. And recently, I feel like I've been witnessing a second colonization of my island because of the gentrification and displacement that's been happening. So I wrote this poem not only about this, but also about our resilience. My people, we've never really belonged to ourselves, but we're still always gonna come together and fight for our land. And one day we will be independent. So that's what this is about. Tú no puedes comprar al viento, tú no puedes comprar al sol, tú no puedes comprar la lluvia, tú no puedes comprar el calor. If there's one thing America loves, it's putting a price on the ones you deem worthless. This country once claimed to want to liberate Spain's colonies. Who knew liberation meant taking and taking some more? To America, Puerto Rico has always been a business venture, a luxury resort where only the wealthy are welcome, a private beach to lock the locals out, a sugarcane field ready for reaping. You loved us when we gave you labor. Loved to see us toil away, our bones showing through our skin, and we still couldn't eat the crops we cultivated. And isn't that smart? Turning people into pawns, your 13 stripes tied around our necks and limbs, so we slowly live and die as your controlled group, and you have liberation down to a science. If there's one thing America loves, it's an experiment. From bombs tested on the shores of our beaches to contraceptives and cancer snuck into our cells. Fun fact, one of the most hazardous waste sites in the United States is the body of a Puerto Rican. Fun fact, we're still out here breathing, still surviving extermination attempts just to see our oppressors on the cover of Times Magazine or in a MAGA hat. So, when Tony Hinchcliffe called my island a floating piece of garbage, I knew he wasn't mistaken. He must have seen all the toxicity and forgotten it was this country that caused it. There is trash on my island. Filthy rich trash scattered too close to its shores, watching contaminated waves from glass balconies, paper towel in hand in case our dirty skin smudges your status, thinking, whose displacement should we profit off of next? You live under the assumption that our land, labor, and lives are for your consumption, pero tú no puedes comprar al viento, tú no puedes comprar al sol, tú no puedes comprar la lluvia, tú no puedes comprar el calor. You want to know what that means? You can't buy the wind, you can't buy the sun, you can't buy the rain, you can't buy the heat, you can't bind our bodies when they're built to break free, you can't own a land that was never yours to begin with. Puerto Rico is worth more than the profit you gain from it. This garbage has taken more than any two-ply paper towel a president can throw at us, and you can't kill us off like you've tried to. Not when the true meaning of liberation is in our worn hands, because just like you, America, we know how to take too. We take our freedom back, we tear down your invasive structures, decontaminate our beaches and our bloodstreams, shout in the street with fire in our hearts, que mi tierra no se vende. If there's one thing America loves, it's forgetting that all flags are flammable. Thank you.
do you even need with me this morning? That was so dope. So I've been asked to bring the grounding this morning, and I had to bring my computer because I can't see. Good morning, I am Dr. Rashida Govan, Senior Fellow at the Aspen Forum for Community Solutions. I am here to help us get grounded this morning as we begin our journey at our Fall Opportunity Youth Convening. I am so delighted to be here with you today, and I want to extend a warm welcome to you. This morning, I'm going to take you through a brief morning routine that I hope will help us get grounded and ready for the wisdom that is going to be shared with you and that you will share with others. Our morning routine will begin with gratitude. 2 powerful words can be transformative for you and for others. So let's start by saying thank you. Thank you for everyone in this room. Thank you for those who await our return home. Thank you for those who made it possible for us to be here, our ancestors most of all. So I ask that you take a moment to just express your gratitude silently or loud if that suits you. I gotta say thank you. Second, we're going to take a moment to be still. I enjoy starting my day with a little silence or meditation. So we're going to take just 1 short minute to sit in silence and to receive the blessing in stillness. Let the minute of stillness and the sounds of the water wash over you. I'm going to ask you to listen and be present in this moment. Thank you. The fountain that you just saw is at the Legacy Sites in Alabama, and we were very fortunate as a Forum fam to go and visit. When was that? In January. And so that fountain that you have seen and heard has some of the surnames of African Americans that African Americans chose for themselves after their emancipation in the United States. So if you can think about what that meant for Black people in this country to have their first choice be their name, and that name what would help them to reconnect with the family that had been taken from them. The choice of that name is the promise of their future. So that is a place to honor and appreciate their first bold choice after centuries of bondage. It is a place to contemplate all of the reasons behind their choices and consider the freedom dreams they conjure for themselves as they face an uncertain yet promising future. In this moment, let's take a page from our ancestors' book and freedom dream. I would like you to think about a dream you have for your people, your nation, this earth. Think of a freedom dream and give it light by sharing it with others. I'm gonna model it. My freedom dream is to exist in a world where we are all free. So I'm just gonna ask you to take a moment and share your dream with the people at your table. How are you? All right. Are you finished? I'm sorry. All right. I'm sorry to cut off your dreams. Keep sharing them, write them down. Write them down, give them light. I'm so sorry. Write them down and give them light. Finally, to my fellows, Chantel and Brock, and thank you. Finally, I love you. I offer you the gifts of our ancestors. They were so generous that they imparted wisdom to us through their powerful proverbs and words. At each table, there is an index card with a proverb or word, and please read it and share with others. Take from it whatever you need or gift it to others. If you are not seated at a table, think of a saying or piece of wisdom your elders or ancestors have gifted you. Hold on to it, share it, take it in. And so I'm going to share one that I'm holding with me today. It is the wisdom of obligation. We have not inherited this land from our ancestors. Rather, we have borrowed it from our children. Kenyan proverb. Thank you for the opportunity to start the morning with you. Have an amazing convening.
Hello. Okay. Just a really quick grounding noise, I guess. Activation noise mostly. You'll see why. Sorry. Thank you. Okay. So, as a teen, I heard a story about an American and I think a Ghanaian who were at the end of their visit, and the American friend was worried he would lose thought or connection to his friend, his Ghanaian friend. He gave him a stone, saying that when you settle down and empty your pockets at the end of a long day, you will see the rock in your pocket. You'll put it out, and our memory and connection will reinforce, never fade. And as a trinket collector, this spoke to me. Nowadays, pain and harm and illness spread wildly. I'm sharing this wisdom in this room, in this space, to make sure healing spreads too. I feel like we all make great impacts to each other in this convention and in our conversations. I get anxious leaving and going back home to surviving. We could make a rock grade of healing connection in telepathic manifestation across the country or world. Word is bond, all in the power of intention. To do it, now this is just instructions. To do it, I suggest to charge the rock. You guys have like little plates with rocks on them. Some are made out of glass, some have names, but go with your intuition. To charge the rock, you put it in your hand, put the intention of maybe the promise of reconnection or healing, or the thought that someone is thinking of you. You can hold it in your chest. Hold on, give me a second. You can hold it in your chest and give it to someone as you're charging it. Put your intention in it. And then you can, whoever's receiving, also this can be like a double exchange if like both of you guys have rocks, which is going to be hella cool. But yeah, and then you give it to others. But of course, this is like to the people that you connect the most, right? Or just whoever who needs it. But rocks are supposed to go around, okay? Don't hold on to them. You will get one. So you hold it, and then you give. You can also double charge if you want. Put both intentions. And whichever way you choose to share. But of course, please ask permission in which way you want to share. Consent is key. My vision is my purpose, and this is my gift to y'all. Thank you.
What a beautiful way to open this morning with so many gifts, gifts from the ancestors, gifts from our community, gifts from our young people. My name is Monique Miles, and let me add to the cadre of people who are expressing a deep, heartfelt welcome to Aspen. If this is your first time here with us, particularly here in Aspen, we hope you're taking really good care of yourself. We know that altitude sickness is real. It shows up like a headache, you're out of breath. Just pay keen attention to your body. And like Steve said, take the time you need to rest. We have a restroom set up here. We intentionally convene in Aspen because it's so beautiful, and that's part of our healing work, part of our self-care work. So welcome, take good care of yourself. If you're here, no matter what, take good care of yourself. But if you're here for the first time, pay attention to your body. And if you're returning, welcome back. We are so delighted that you have joined us again. And some of you have heard me say this, and I'm going to always say this. I believe the greatest resource we have is our time. So how we choose to spend it matters. We take it to heart that you are sharing your time with us. And I say this on behalf of the Aspen Forum family. Team members, the dopest team members in the world, by the way, have spent so much time thinking about and curating agenda that's as attentive to your mind and the technical side of this work as it is to your heart and your bodies, and how we are the medicine for each other as this work unfolds. And so I really want to actually kick off my remarks today with an appreciation. And I really do want to start by just acknowledging that I have the privilege of working with one of the most dynamic, thoughtful, wise, mighty, and loving teams on earth, and they bring passion into this convening that we do twice a year. If you're part of the Aspen Forum fam, please stand up. Yeah, show them some love. Show them some love. And now I'm going to ask you to hold your applause because I just want to thank some other people and some other groups like Aspen Conference Services, our national partners. There are so many, but a quick few shout outs: Jobs for the Future, Think Place, our third-party evaluator, Equal Measure, all of our funder partners, of course, our young adult partners who are with us and have been with us from the beginning, and our community site leads. And here's what I want to make sure I take a special moment to share. So we have been investing in community since 2013, and specifically in the site lead role. This is the person whose job it is to wake up every single day thinking about how to improve outcomes for youth and young adults across time and across generations. And they bring together cross-system and cross-sector leaders. And again, since we launched back in 2013, these committed community leaders have been doing this work. If you are a site lead, please stand up. And you know, some places we got 2 or 3. Come on. We convened you yesterday. Don't make me call you. Come on. Come on. Stand up. Stand up. Thank you. Please show them some love. Show them some love. In the face of everything, in the face of everything, they are holding communities, systems, institutions, narratives accountable to our young people. So thank you for joining me and showing them some love. So I want to now situate our gathering in a larger context. We've already been reminded, especially because several of us, we've been convening for the last couple days, and it's come up again and again, and it's going to continue to, the current times that we are living in and what it means for humanity. And we've been asked, are we going to talk about that while we're here in Aspen? And y'all already know. We don't shy away from it. We actually believe that it's really, really important to be so mindful of what everyone is facing day after day doing this work. So know it's baked into our breakouts, know that it's baked into our plenaries, and I already know it's going to come up in every conversation we have. Because you see, our work at Aspen has always been resistance work. It has always been the idea that we can make the impossible possible and focus on improving intergenerational outcomes. And so really where I want to continue this part of the conversation is by celebrating the impact of this network as part of the resistance. But because resistance begins with the acts of individuals, I really want to begin by celebrating each of you. See, what I know is that everyone in this room has something large or small that you recently accomplished. Maybe it's a goal you set for wellness or self-care. Perhaps it's something that involves a relative or a close friend. Whatever it is, I want you to take a minute to think about what that thing is, and I want you to really hold it in your mind and your heart. And as you do, I want to share my own recent accomplishment with you. But I got to tell you, it actually starts with the fact that before I became a parent, let me say this, nobody tells you these things before you become a parent, but for me, nobody told me these 2 things before our son, Elijah, was born. So the first thing that nobody told me about raising a boy, and particularly a Black son, was the battles that my husband and I would face as we supported him through his educational journey. And really at the heart of it was about ensuring that in the classroom, he was treated with the dignity that he deserved as a human being. So sometimes our battles were with teachers, sometimes our battles were with the entire institution. But rest assured, year after year, we had to put on our armor to successfully guide our son through his educational journey. Now, here's the second thing that nobody told me when I became a parent. That same sweet boy who I taught how to read when he was 3 years old, who we together used to sing at the top of our lungs, Elmo's greatest hits. A true story, y'all. The same little kid that used to cry in my arms every time our relatives left because we host Christmas and we host Thanksgiving, that same little boy became a teenager, and he all of a sudden knew everything. And I mean this, my husband and I, we didn't know nothing. This is a true story, y'all. This is a true story. 13 years old, in the 8th grade, he goes away to camp. He calls us, and I'm thinking, this must be an emergency. He's away at camp, and he's calling, no, we gotta drop everything. What's going on with Elijah? He calls us, and you have to know this, my husband and I are both from Harlem, from a place where, not only do we love hip hop, but at one point our son's name was going to be Nasir, after Nas, so that's the context of the story. This same boy calls to tell us if we have ever heard of, because he recently discovered an artist named Missy Elliott, who used to be popular in the 2000s, and because he knows that we like hip hop, he thought maybe we should try to listen to her music. But I share this to tell you, listen, y'all, it's been a journey. And this past June, our son, he graduated from high school, but here's what I am celebrating. I am celebrating that in spite of the battles, because sometimes they were with teachers, sometimes they were with institutions, and if I'm being honest as a parent, sometimes they were with him. But he graduated with a deep and abiding love for learning, a deep and abiding love for knowledge, a deep and abiding love for community and for family, and a sense of purpose. And I want to say that in my mind and my heart, this is what resistance looks like from one generation to another. And what I wanted to show you all, and what I'm proud of, is that that same smile on his face when he started kindergarten was the same smile that he had on his face when he graduated from high school, in spite of the hills and valleys he faced on his education journey. So here's what I want to ask you. What are you celebrating today? And I want you to turn to a neighbor and take 1 minute, but here's the caveat. After your neighbor says, here's the thing that I'm celebrating, here's what you must say. Yes, you did that. I see you. And you are someone who achieves great things. Now go ahead and turn to your neighbor, please. All right. I'm going to bring your attention back to the front of the room. Thank you. Thank you for the vigorous sharing. Thank you for the vigorous sharing. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we're going to continue. We're going to continue on in the spirit of celebration, and specifically the kind of celebration that is rooted in resistance. Because as I noted, what I want to do is celebrate some recent accomplishments of our network. And here's what I want to make sure I start with. I'm not sure how that happened, but that's all right. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, the way that I want to ground this next part of my address is I want to make sure that you all understand the theory of action that has always undergirded our work. And what that has always included very specifically is this idea that by investing in the collaborative capacity of communities, they are able to, working across sectors, really advance and drive system change. And when we say systems, we're talking about the K through 12 system, the post-secondary system, the career system, the justice system, and the foster care system, and that reduces the number of opportunity youth in place. Again, that's always been what has undergirded our work. But here's the thing. There are a few things that I want to lift up and celebrate, because the slide that you see before you is a reflection of the progress that our network has made over the last several years. So if you look all the way to the left, what you can see is that pre-COVID, the numbers in our network, thanks to the communities here in this room, and many people who of course can't be with us today, but we know we're critical to the impact story of communities, we're able to see reductions in the number of opportunity youth. And then COVID hit. And this matters because what we know is that when our country catches a cold, we know that historically disinvested communities catch the flu, and we know that young people are most vulnerable. Young people get pneumonia. So it matters that coming out of COVID, we were able to see, yes, the numbers increase, but again, because of the committed people in this room, we began to see a reduction in those numbers. And that matters. It matters because we know what's ahead. And we know that by continuing to invest in collaborative infrastructure is part of how we think about our resistance work over the long term. It really matters. The other thing that's really important for me to make sure that I just lift up as part of just celebrating and acknowledging the work of our network and the progress and impact of our network is this idea that at least that last slide, what it highlights is not only our system changing, but that there are shifts in policies, pathways, and narratives that are driving progress across our network. And it matters because that progress that I noted on that last slide, I'll go back to it quickly, the reality that we can tell from our assessments year after year is that our collaboratives are using data more to drive decision-making and to tell the story of impact. And at the same time, what this slide represents is deeper cross-sector relationships that are bringing together not only education and employers, but youth-serving organizations in new and effective ways. And I'll just say it again, it matters. But here's another thing that feels really important to lift up and celebrate. The other thing that's really important to lift up and celebrate is that about 3 years ago, we set a goal, and we said that we wanted to see the national numbers of OY reduced by at least 50%. So we set that goal that in our network that we would see at least a 500,000 reduction in the number of opportunity youth. We are now 2 years into this goal, and we are already seeing an almost 20% reduction in the numbers of OY. Yeah, yes. And you are clapping for yourselves. This is the work that communities in the room are doing, and it's really important. And so what I wanted to do with real intention is give you a snapshot of resistance nationally. But I also want to ground that in the actual stories of what it is that our communities are doing. So I want to just quickly, unfortunately, I can't tell you all the stories, but I will say this, in the breakouts, our communities are the experts. Our communities are the experts in everything, but I want you to also attend breakouts where you can hear these stories delivered directly from our communities. But to just put a spotlight on a few of our communities quickly, I'll just share that the Laguna Community Foundation, in partnership with Laguna Pueblo, hosted 2 events that centered specifically on youth, including Youth Empowerment Summit, which was the first youth center event hosted since the pandemic. And then 6 months later, they focused specifically on the dual relationship of entrepreneurship with adults and with young people, and a real emphasis on intergenerational learning. And then in Stockton, the reInvent, hold on, the only reason I'm asking you to hold is because I'm gonna go through all of them, and then we're gonna do a vigorous round of applause. So in Stockton, the reInvent Stockton Foundation deepened its commitment to organizational sustainability by awarding $632,000 in capacity building grants in 2024. And it matters, y'all, because this money was flexible funding to strengthen infrastructure. I've been talking about collaborative infrastructure, and to improve program delivery and invest in long-term planning. But that's not all. In New York City, Youth Wins developed and adopted a shared advocacy agenda formalizing coalition-wide policy priorities, including unifying workforce efforts under New York City Workforce Development Board and directing city support for career pathways into green energy sector. But in Hawaii, the collaborative is celebrating the investment and innovation of local partners in improving a tailored GED preparation for young people that's not only culturally tailored, but rooted in everything from language and intergenerational wisdom, they call it old wisdom, specifically to meet the needs of young people. And in Buffalo, the Buffalo Youth Employment Coalition created a data dashboard, which marks a major milestone to bring data together across the entire community for the first time. So now all of the youth-serving organizations are able to align around best and effective practices, successful approaches, strategies, and streamline outcomes in communities for young people. And then finally, Roadmap to Peace partners in the Bay Area expanded healing-centered services within the San Francisco County Jail and successfully bridged in-custody programming with post-release support. So as part of this work, youth engaged in violence prevention circles, restorative practices, and academic learning, and this led to milestone credits and early release opportunities. Now, here's where I want to ask you to join me in celebrating those communities, please. And then 3 really quick, just state, because our state networks are so important to how we also are not only thinking about impact, but how we are thinking about this work sustainably, regardless of what's happening at the federal level. And so I just want to lift up that in Louisiana, a youth task force was created through Senate Resolution 47, thanks to the advocacy from our partners, the New Orleans Youth Alliance. And in Colorado, HB 24-1216 established a Bill of Rights for justice-impacted youth, providing a range of services from priority access to alternative pathways, to credit for coursework, to enrollment support and graduation plans, again, specifically for justice-impacted youth across the state. And then finally, in California, Youth Will in San Diego co-sponsored a bill to expand financial survivor benefits for youth in foster care. These are just some of the state-level policies and advocacies communities are winning on behalf of young people. Please show them some love. So we know it matters. It matters because as we continue to talk about, we know that communities are also experiencing unprecedented hard times. Not only has there been a reduction in federal funding, but we're already hearing from our communities. In just 3 months into this year, we were hearing about a loss of 7,000 service slots and a prediction of at least 32,000 service slots, which we know, again, not only impacts our young people, but it also impacts our communities. And we understand the long-term intergenerational implications of this. So here's what I want to tell you all. What I want to tell you all is that in response to the current political, cultural, and economic conditions of what we know our communities are facing, but also based on lessons we've learned over the past 12 years, and in the face of the federal cuts, pandemic, and just the narrative infrastructure that has never prioritized our young people, we have been thinking through how we can update our work in ways that could be responsive to this moment. And for us, that starts with being really, really clear in our mission about the vision we are holding for the future. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, our network is an integrated local, state, and national impact network, and our vision is not only to transform programs, systems, policies, and narratives, but our vision is to support all young people and communities to thrive. And so I won't go through this updated theory of action and theory of change, but here's what I will say. What I will say is that we have identified 5 key areas that we're focusing on over the next couple of years. We've always been committed to place-based impact, but we want to double down on that over the next several years. Our work has always been about transforming policies and funding so that communities have the public dollars they need to advance this work. We're doubling down on that. We also have, from the very beginning, been in deep transformative partnership with philanthropy. We're doubling down on that. Expanding and deepening coalitions so that we can continue to be in partnership with you all as the movement progresses. Gonna double down on that. And then finally, our work committed to transforming narratives is gonna live at the heart of everything that we do, but especially our policy and advocacy work. And so what this articulates is our vision for a country and a democracy in which all young people can thrive. And here's what I want to say. The reason why we know that this is possible, because in the first 10 years, you all achieved a 1 million reduction in the number of opportunity youth. So we already have a blueprint. And these numbers were achieved in the face of what all of us have already lived through. So we know it's possible. We can stand in that hope. So here's what I want to close with. Because I now have the honor of introducing Toshi Regan and the chair of our program, Melody Barnes. I want to share an offering with you, and this offering I have is called it's called Veneration in the Face of Desecration. So you all remember at the start of this, I shared the story of my son, Elijah Miles, graduating from high school, and this idea that it was really important to our family for so many reasons, especially for what it represents for what we've been dreaming about for future generations. And to mark that milestone, we went as 3 generations to the continent to celebrate and mark the occasion together. So in this photo, you see our elders, you see the parents, me, my husband, and his sister, and then you see all of the grandchildren together. And I want to tell you this story from our time in Tanzania. In this picture, we're gathered together in Zanzibar. And our time there, we were, on the bank of the Indian Ocean. So we arrive, we, go to bed, rest, wake up in the morning. It's the very first meal we're having together as a family and country. It's breakfast, and breakfast is buffet style. Grandchildren are at the table, the parents are at the table, and all of the grandchildren are at the table. And it's a custom in our family that the grandchildren get the food first, the parents help them, and then the grandparents get the food, and then we all sit down and pray. So we go through that, and everybody digs in. All of a sudden, my mother-in-law, she bites into her bananas, her fried bananas, and her entire body stiffens, and she begins to sob. And I have to tell you, little Xavier, the smallest person in the picture, was like, "Nana, did you bite your tongue?" "Nana, sometimes I bite my tongue. Are you okay?" After Carol calms down, my mother-in-law calms down, and she looks at us and she says, "This banana recipe is the exact recipe that my grandmother used to make for me when I was 5 or 6 years old." And because these bananas had been fried and seasoned specifically with cardamom, it was a very unique and specific recipe. And that leads her into telling us the story about her grandmother, Miss Mary Constance Bechet, who was born in 1879 in Martinique, so on the Caribbean Sea, before she migrated to New York in the early 1900s, so growing up on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. But in her migration, she brought her culture with her, including, again, this very specific recipe with these specific ingredients. So after my mother-in-law finishes telling the grandchildren stories about their great-great-grandmother, I shared with everyone how I was struck and deeply touched by the fact that the body remembers. And here's the thing about what the body remembers. The body remembers across time. The story Carol shared spanned just 5 generations in that one story. But the body also remembers across space. That recipe traveled from the Caribbean Sea to the Atlantic Ocean to the Indian Ocean, at least in terms of what we knew as we were sitting at that table. And the body remembers across cultures, across the diaspora, across different identities and contexts and particularities. And this is why it matters. Because at a time when so much is being dismantled, destroyed, and desecrated, remembering is important because it's critical to how we pass knowledge, love, and culture onto future generations. But remembering is also multi-layered. It is something we do at the individual level. Again, the story of my mother-in-law is a reflection of how our individual minds and hearts and bodies remember. But we also do remembering at the collective level, right? Because in times of grief, in times of public grief, we have public memory of what happened. Just like in times of celebration, we have public celebration and public memory of what happened, of those victories. And then there's also remembering in the body politic. And this is how we organize, again and again, generation after generation, rooted in freedom dreams, the same freedom dreams that Rashida opened us with this morning. Those are the dreams of our ancestors, and they organize us in our present, and they prepare us for the future of our descendants. So here's what I want to acknowledge again, is that yes, we're living in a time of deep loss and suffering. And I will name, and I feel honored that we have a grief doula with us, a healing doula here with us, who will be holding sessions for anybody who this is part of your journey and part of the work that you may want to do here today. Her name is Madison, and what Madison so beautifully reminds us of is that we experience loss. We experience grief because of loss, and we experience loss because of love, because of what it is that we love and what it is that we cherish. And that both of these things, loss and grief and hope and love, they can sit together because generation after generation, what we get to hand down to ourselves, to each other, to our children, for humanity and for the earth is always going to fundamentally be rooted in love. And then here's my final offering. We are also living through a time where everyone has great fear of artificial intelligence. It's the only conversation we're having, and especially its harm on young people. But here's the thing about how the body also remembers across time, is that the kind of AI that every single person in this room and every single human on this earth has is ancestral intelligence, right? I'll say it again, ancestral intelligence. So every time you're sitting in a conversation about AI and there's a whole lot of fear and foreboding, remember the kind of wisdom that already lives in us that we get to pass down generation to generation. And so here are the two questions I hope you can hold top of heart and top of mind as you're with us today. What does your body remember? And what are you loving enough to grieve and loving enough to build? Thank you. And now I get to introduce Toshi Regan. And I have to tell you, she was very clear to not read her bio, so I won't. But here's what I want you all to understand about the beautiful gift of being in community with Toshi and the beautiful spirit that gift was born out of, especially given that Toshi moves so elegantly, so beautifully in concert with her ancestors and descenders. Toshi's mother, Bernice Johnson Regan, founded Sweet Honey in the Rock, a group that is regarded as the soundtrack of the movement for freedom, the civil rights movement. In fact, I want y'all to know their song, Ella's Song, about the civil rights leader, the luminary Ella Baker, inspired my husband and I to name our daughter Ella. And I want you to know, this is a true story, y'all. We played that song so much that for the first 4 years of Ella's life, our Ella Miles, she introduced herself as Ella Baker. It's a true story, it's a true story. But it's an important story because that spirit, again, gets passed down across generations. So really what I want to say about Toshi is, yes, that's the generation that she was born out of, that created the music that was medicine for organizers in the 60s and still today. And as a singer, composer, musician, curator, and producer, she is an artist partnering with our generation and future generations to create and produce art that in our current time sets an expansive vision for community, for peace, for solidarity, for belonging, and for love. And it is my honor to welcome her and Melody to this stage.